Catalin, allow me to introduce the members of the panel to you. Madam Claudia Pereira, the Portuguese Secretary of State for Integration and Migration, joining us remotely. Madam Katarina Ivankovic-Knežević, Director for Social Affairs and Inclusion at DG Employment. Mr. Petrica Dulgheru, Executive Director at Roma Entrepreneurship Development Initiative. The moderator of this panel is Madam Katarina Maternova, Deputy Director General at DG European Neighbourhood and Enlargement Negotiations. I'm very happy she made time to join us and moderate this panel.
But how about employment? How about self-employment? Tell us some reflections on this aspect.
Thank you so much, Katarina. And I'm very proud to be a male only in this very, very gender positive way. Biased, but it's two Katarinas and then one Claudia. And I'm actually very proud. I'm actually the father of three young girls. So very happy to be here on this almost all women panel. Now, your question, Katarina, was how can we actually make sure that the benefits of the recovery and resilience reach out to the marginalized communities? And I have to say, I have probably a grim prediction. Because I have the impression that because of the recovery and resilience is all about spending a lot of money very fast in the next 2 years, and there's no capacity to absorb the money in Roma communities, actually, none of the countries are actually going to try to put resources specifically targeting Roma communities because they have the risk of losing the money. To me, I think that the recovery and resilience will actually increase the gap between Roma and non-Roma. And I really hope that I'm going to be wrong in this, but I've attended conversations in Bucharest, and I've tried to engage with the Romanian government when they were planning the recovery and resilience programs. They were very, very nice. They took all of our input, and then they didn't put it in, right? So that was one thing. Same thing in Bulgaria. Bulgaria hasn't even submitted. Same thing the other countries. So I really think that the recovery and resilience, they're going to focus on green and digital. I really think we all agree that the very few people, Roma people, that can take advantage of the green economy at this point, there's no skills, unless we actually help them get into the green economy. And I think here the ESF has a very important role, but we really need to really look at it a bit better. So I think that's one. Second, digital. I think here we are so fast, and I think digital will enable a lot of us to do a much better job because we can now work from home. We can do so many more things than we were able to do before, like even this conference. But many of the Roma, I think when we speak about digital, we speak about iPads, iPhones, computers, but we don't think about the basic infrastructure, which is electricity, right? When we speak about employment, working from home and self-employment, the house is very important because now the house became both a classroom as well as an office. So I think this is so much more important, and I have not seen any single high-scale program that would support Roma housing. There is the HERO project, which is a pilot. I think it's very good. I think the HERO project would enable us to learn much more things about this. But I really believe that we need to be much more ambitious. We need to look at, and when I'm saying we, I actually speak about both the member states, but also the European Commission, at trying to start thinking much larger scale. The problem when we're trying to implement any sort of program, you actually need to have an impact assessment. So I'm now thinking a bit about other operational programs. So you need to have a theory, if you want, which is based on some data from the past, your impact assessment. I believe that we might be using the wrong input because our world before 2020 is very likely going to be very different from the world that we're going to live in the next few years. So I believe that we might be basing ourselves on the wrong data. So I think that's one. Second, goodwill. I'm super proud to see both you, Katerina, and Claudia here in this panel, because this shows goodwill and personal involvement. I think this we have plenty. We've seen yesterday the President of the European Commission. I would have loved to see the Romanian Prime Minister saying and giving that strong message that we've seen yesterday. I've never seen any of the prime ministers in the EU attending these sort of conferences at this level. And I think that would be the first step, right? Goodwill. Then legislation. I think all of the framework, I think all of the effort that DG Employment has made, DG NEAR, Justice, ECFIN, to make a very powerful legislation, the skills agenda, the framework, the ESF programming, they're very useful. They're good tools, but that's not enough. We have also funding, plenty of money. I believe that in 7 years, we're going to have a lot of reallocations because we're not going to spend them. Because the real problem is capacity, right? So both at local and international level, we are so afraid of the billion of euros. We're afraid of it. We're afraid of Olaf, right? We're afraid of being flexible. And actually, organizations on the field have no capacity of implementing projects of 5, 10, 15 million, right? So that's the challenge. And I think, to me, what we're also lacking is the willingness to fail and experiment, right? So try to do much more experimenting. And if I would have to choose one thing, I believe that we would need to do a large-scale experiment, 100, 200 million per country, in a model of 5, 10 communities, where we really put in a lot of resources in infrastructure, 5G towers, electricity, education. I really think that this is the only way in which we can actually have a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's all try to work, and this is going to be my last question for all the panelists. What can we do at a personal level? Because I very much agree, it's about personal commitment. What can we do at a personal level to ensure that the green prediction of Petrica, that the recovery programs will in fact help increase the gap, which there is a real danger? What can we do to prevent that is going to be my last question. As an honorary male on this panel, you get 30 seconds.
Okay, very good. So thank you so much. Now, what I think I will personally do is grow Ready Fund, which is an investment vehicle that we established, which aims to support entrepreneurs get access to finance. So my plan is to grow this vehicle so that this vehicle becomes one of the tools that the European Commission and the member states can use to disperse the funds and support the entrepreneurs and the self-employed people.
Right?
Exactly. Thank you very much, Madam Maternova, for your fantastic moderation of this panel, as well as your expert input on the subject. Based on your Slido input, starting with your Slido input from yesterday. Recall yesterday, we asked you to prioritize 1 out of 3 questions that were formulated by the writers of the expert notes for your workshops. And the question that you selected is the following: how can we ensure that the benefits of the national recovery and resilience plans reach marginalized Roma communities? Mr. Dulgheru, your response to that question that was selected yesterday.
So I think when it comes to housing, there's plenty of very nice strategies and there's plenty of nice wishes. But when we actually see what social housing meant for many of the politicians, it's actually container housing or houses with very low quality of finishing, which apparently is good enough for the Roma, right? So I think this is a big issue, right? The only real projects of housing where I've seen successful were projects which were started up either by private individuals or by Terre des Hommes or other NGOs like Habitat for Humanity. The funding for houses and fixes, I think it's critical. And I don't think necessarily we need to use grant funding. The InvestEU, I think it's a great opportunity, but we need to make sure that we bring that over to the people. And just one quick question, a quick answer on the skills. I think the skills, I fully agree with Katerina. Skills is really the only way Roma communities will be able to succeed in the future. We need to actually help them leapfrog and really have a chance in the digital and green economy. Because at this point, I think, as I said before, I think we might actually increase the gap. Roma Education Fund has fantastic experience on that.
Okay, thank you so much, all three of you, for also keeping it short. Let's have a look at what you responded to the closed question that we asked you at the outset of the panel. Can we see that question on Slido, please? In your view, who were the main actors that took immediate action to address the needs of the Roma communities at the beginning of the pandemic in your country? Local civil society comes out as the majority answer, and second is national government. Mr. Dulgheru, since you represent civil society to an extent at this panel, this sounds like a compliment to you, no?
I think it does, yeah.
Were you expecting this outcome?
I was expecting this outcome because I think when the pandemic started, I think the governments were shocked at the beginning. And then what the governments did, because the majority population was in trouble, they obviously focused on the large majority. Of course, even before they didn't care too much about the Roma communities, I think in the pandemic they cared even less. And the only people that really cared about what's happening there, because they were witnessing the drama of people not having food, people not having a place to go to work and provide for themselves, especially informal economy, right? So the informal workers, the artists, right? There was absolutely no resource for them. So then local civil society tried to do something. Not enough and not everything, but I think I'm not surprised by this.